be able to do. Of course, the challenge in this particular case is that we've set up a scenario where our granularity is kind of at the DVS level, right? And that is that, if I want to make sure that, Brad and Brad's team has full control over a particular DVS, then I need to set up a DVS for that, and then I need to set up a DVS for all of the networking functionality, right? Because, the network administrator role was given full access to the DV port group, DV switch level, and so if I want to have that proper separation, I'm kind of brought into a scenario where, okay, if I want to be able to say to Brad, you can have all the control you need over this without potentially making configuration changes of which you're unaware on a system side, right, where I'm doing vMotion or management or IP storage or something of that nature, well, we got to go into two DVSs, right? Yeah. So let's look at what that looks like. I think we have a recording that actually shows when we log into the vSphere web client, we log in again as an administrator, and we're logging here with administrator because we're going to be granting permissions to Brad's account. So if we were to log in with Brad's account, we wouldn't be able to make those changes yet because we haven't given him that role. And so once we get logged in, we'll be able to navigate to the virtual distributed switch inside the vSphere web client. And then we'll be able to go to the properties for that particular virtual distributed switch or a data center level, depending on how you want to look at it, right? And here we're going to create a folder. This will allow us to do some grouping. For example, if we had multiple virtual distributed switches that we wanted the networking team to have full control over, we can just drop the virtual switches into that folder, assign the permissions at the folder level, and then we're all taken care of, which simplifies administration and operations. So in this case, we create a folder, we drop, we call it NSX, we drop them in there, and then we change the roles here for the network admins group to give them full rights on that particular folder and all the pieces underneath it.
And then Scott, looks like here we're going to go ahead and demote you to read only for this switch that's in this folder.
Well,
Sorry about that.
That's all right. We got to make sure we protect ourselves, right?
So this is kind of a brute force approach, right?
I've
got my own DVS, you've got your own DVS. Yeah. It's kind of...
Yeah, and there's a lot of design considerations around whether we should or shouldn't deploy multiple DVSs. What are the benefits or the drawbacks of deploying multiple DVSs, especially in an NSX environment? So I wonder if there's a better way that we could do this other than DVS level, right?
Right.
So if we dig in a little bit at how we can do permissions and that sort of thing, we find that we can actually do this at a much more granular level. We can create a single DVS, right, like this, and then we can do your uplinks, however you are architecting that out to your physical network. And then we can take the system DV port groups that control system traffic. This is management, IP storage, vMotion, related VM kernel traffic, and give them the control of under the server admin team, those guys that are working for me, right? And then we can take the NSX-related port group or port groups and give them control to the networking team because they are the ones who are responsible for helping to manage that VM-related network traffic.
That's absolutely right. And one of my responsibilities as a network admin is to monitor network traffic and troubleshooting. So I need to have a certain level of access to that DVS where I can turn on things like NetFlow and monitoring, right? So we want to make sure that that's there. But I don't want to be the guy who messes up your vMotion or your management connection, Scott.
Yeah. And likewise, we don't want to be the guys who are going to break the virtual machine traffic.
Right.
So let's look at what that looks like, right? And by the way, this is the preferred approach. Stepping out of character for a minute, this is the preferred approach for doing this. This gives you great granular control over which teams are allowed to access or control or modify and administer which types of traffic. So again, we log into the vSphere web client. Again, we go to the networking section, right? We see our DV switch. We see our various port groups that are there, right? There's a vMotion port group. There's a management port group. You'll see some DVS virtual wire port groups, which are VXLAN port groups, okay?
And it looks like, Scott, what's going to happen here, I'm going to get demoted to read-only access to that vMotion port group and the management port group because I'm not really qualified. I mean, you're the VCDX, I'm the CCIE, so you're more qualified at setting that up than I am.
Yeah, and this mirrors the responsibilities that your team has, right? So this isn't ours versus theirs, but this is a tailoring the environment to make sure that everybody can do their own job effectively without fear of somebody accidentally stepping on somebody else's toes, right? And so now when we log in, Brad can log in under his account. He's part of the network admins group, right? Yep. And he can navigate through here again. You know, Brad, I think you're going to the networking section there.
Yep, so I logged in as myself, and I'm going to go to that vMotion port group and just double check here that I'm not able to screw it up. And yep, sure enough, there, that edit button's grayed out. Okay, good.
Right.
So I won't be blamed for anything that goes wrong there. There's a management group. Okay, that's grayed out. But I do need to set up some monitoring here. So Scott, let me make sure I can set up NetFlow.
Absolutely.
Okay, yep, good.
Okay.
I can do that.
Great.
All right, so I can do what I need to do.
So again, you see there a great way of being able to look at dividing roles and responsibilities between your